Dr. Gail Gross, and my guest today is the celebrated musician, conductor, and composer, Marvin Hamilisch. His music is known for its versatility and substance, and his work as a composer has won him every major award in the field, including 3 Oscars, 4 Emmys, 1 Tony, and 3 Golden Globe Awards. His unforgettable music and arrangements have appeared in over 40 motion pictures, including The Way We Were, The Sting, Sophie's Choice, and 3 Men and a Baby. Marvin Hamilisch's work has also made a big splash in the theatrical world. His groundbreaking show, A Chorus Line, became one of Broadway's most popular shows, with over 6,000 performances in its original 15-year run, and it earned him a Pulitzer Prize. He currently holds the position of Principal Pops Conductor with the National Symphony Orchestra in Washington, D.C., and the Pittsburgh Symphony. He is the first person ever granted that position for either orchestra. Marvin Hamilisch, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So happy and honored to have you. So I'm going to ask you, what was your childhood like? What prepared you to be this musical genius?
Well, to be honest with you, my father was really the musical genius. He had the genes, you know. He came from Vienna.
Yes.
He played 6 instruments. And when I was born, my mother always told the story that around the age of 2 or 3 already, I was starting to pick out notes at the piano and stuff like this. And I had a sister, and she was 2 years older, so she was taking piano lessons. And when she would leave the piano, I would go over and start, you know, just picking out the songs.
A prodigy.
So, exactly. I mean, it wasn't anything that I did per se. It was like God gave me some good genes. So what happened was that at the age of about 5.5, 6 years old, my father started asking people, practically on the street, what's a good school for music? You know, because I mean, he was just, you know, from Vienna. He had no idea about, you know, New York City, and he kept hearing the word Juilliard, Juilliard. And so, at the age of 6.5, I auditioned for the Juilliard School of Music.
The youngest child ever to audition.
Right.
And is it correct? Did you audition in pajamas?
Actually, I did. The way it was is that my mother had bought me a beautiful gray pinstripe, you know, suit. Beautiful.
So motherly.
It's very motherly. And on the day that I was supposed to audition, it was the first time I actually wore the suit. And when I put the pants on, I said to my mother, I cannot play the piece I'm supposed to play because it's itching like crazy. You know, the wool. My mother said to me she didn't have time to actually put in a lining, you know, stitch it in. But she said, you know, if you take your cotton pajamas underneath, then it'll be fine. It'll work like a lining. And the story is that I walked in to the place, and of course, you know, you're waiting to go on, so you're very nervous. You're pacing back and forth. And when I sat down at the piano to actually play the piece, you could start to see little, you know, Bozo the Clown and everything coming out of my pants on the bottom because you saw all the other bears and Bozo and all that stuff. But I played it in pajamas and got in.
Oh, incredible.
Think about that.
And then you stayed at Juilliard, and you were playing and composing at a very young age.
Right.
So you knew your passion really so early.
What happened, actually, it was very interesting, and I'm always very, how should I say, very thrilled that Juilliard did this. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I said to my father, there is no reason for me to go to Juilliard because everybody out there is trying to become Horowitz, and I'm trying to become Richard Rodgers. And I'm being very quiet about it because, you know, they're doing the whole classical world.
And you like pop.
And I'm going to popular things and I'm going to shows. Well, my father gave me a great piece of advice. He said, well, Marvin, if you're going to play your songs, your brand new songs, for people, then those people should be able to hear them very well. They should be played well, you know, not junkily. You know, they should be played.
Brilliant.
He said, so therefore, you should continue to learn the Bach and Beethoven, which will make you play your songs better. It was absolutely right. And all the things that I'm doing today, I could not have done without really the kind of education I got at Juilliard.
In a certain way, then your mentors became like Leonard Bernstein and
Julie Stein was really mine because I fell in love with a show called Gypsy, which I still think is one of the greatest shows of all time.
Yes.
And I'll tell you an interesting off-the-wall thing.
Go for it.
my high school was the professional children's school.
Yes.
Sitting next to me in my high school was the illegitimate son
No.
of Gypsy Rose Lee.
No.
So every time I wanted to see Gypsy,
Yes.
I just said to Eric, was his name,
Yes.
Eric Kirkland, I said, Eric, I need 2 seats for, Gypsy. So on my high school diploma, in their desire to get, important guests to
Yes.
sign,
Yes.
your diploma, my high school diploma is signed by Gypsy Rose Lee.
Imagine.
This is important.
This is cool.
This is cool.
Then you became friends with Liza Minnelli.
I became friends with Liza Minnelli because, again, a friend of mine in my school at PCS was dating this girl called Liza Minnelli. All right? This girl. And he had a wild idea. It was really wonderful. We became friends.
Yes.
And she said that she wanted to tell her mother some way that she wanted to go into show business, but she knew that if she came right out and said it, it would be a problem. Mm-hmm. So Christmas was coming up. I forget how old we all were, probably 16, 17 years old. And we decided to go into a studio. We wrote 4 songs for Liza. She sang them, right?
Amazing.
We made the thing. And then when we came to Christmas, we brought the records to her mother in Scarsdale.
Wow.
And said, here's your Christmas present.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a wow. The highlight of the evening for me was that Judy Garland said to me, well, now that you played for my daughter, would you want to play for me?
Oh,
and,
Marvin.
Now you're in another heaven. Yeah, you've reached heaven. And, for me to have played those songs was just everything you could ever want,
Imagine.
So it was a wonderful childhood because I got to meet a lot of people that became very famous later on.
Yes.
Leslie Uggams and I went to the same class.
Can you imagine?
It was just wonderful. It was just great.
In a certain way, it makes me think of destiny, that you had this destiny right away, like a Mozart. Do you ever think of that? Do you ever have this pinch me moment that this was your destiny and these things that happened to you so early?
I'll tell you when I get my pinch me moments, because you're right, I do. Just the other day, in fact, I was in my office, I'm putting up pictures, and on one side of the wall, they are what I call the professional pictures.
Yes.
And the other are the personal pictures, friends of mine. And I look at that wall of professionals and say, my God, I practically worked with everybody.
Wow.
And in a time that, if you asked me what time I would have preferred to be working with people, that was the time.
Yes.
60s and 70s, 80s, I have Sinatra, Carly Simon, you name them, they're on the wall, you know what I mean?
And now, today, all of those famous people on that wall, if they were alive today, they'd be saying, and I worked with Marvin Hamilisch.
Would be nice.
They would be saying it. So ultimately, you won 3 Oscars in one night. What was that like?
It was basically surreal because it was very interesting. Before we went to the Oscar show, I brought my parents out. I felt pretty good that I was at least going to win one Academy Award. However, I kept saying to my father, can you imagine if I only win the award for adaptation, which was for the Scott Joplin, for the Sting. I said, I'll be the only Oscar winner who won't feel good because my work as a composer will have been repudiated because I won't win for
the way we were.
So after that, everything was gravy, and I was in another world. I was just like, someplace else,
What was it like that your parents lived to see this incredible success?
Oh, it was.
Could they ever believe it? I mean,
well, my father particularly had great faith in my talent, and of course, he being a musician, he could understand the talent. My mother just cared about 2 things. You should be happy and eat. Eat, be happy, eat.
Maybe we're related.
Yeah, probably.
Siblings.
It's the same mother. But no, it was very exciting, Oscar night, and it's still exciting whether I'm in it or not. It's just it's a wonderful thing.
Yes. Did they ever talk to you about that? What was it like to see this journey, to see that you reached this incredible success? Well,
my mother was always concerned because when I was really working hard, it really meant working hard. It meant like some days, you stay up till 4 a.m. in the morning. You go to sleep, you wake up at 8. She was always very concerned about that because, and I said to her, this is how much time I need, In fact, to this day, when I have a project that I've really got to get done, most of it gets done after midnight.
Really?
Because there are no phone calls.
Interesting.
There's no fax machines. There's no nothing. There's just That's it. 12 midnight, it's over.
What is the process that you go through? What is it actually, Marvin? You just rest in the day, or do you don't rest and just keep on going until it's your time to write?
You talk to composers who will say to you, I go in the studio, and we rent the place for 6 hours, we write something.
Yeah.
And it comes. Now, the fact that when they write it, it turns out to be some great piece of music.
Imagine.
You know, you just think to yourself, how did you do that? You know?
Yes.
No one knows that.
Yes.
Because you can work 6 hours and write
nothing.
Junk. Or the worst is you can write junk and people love it. That's the worst part. You know? But that is a gift from God, that thing that you get in touch with something that day.
Yes.
You know, as a professional, you can always write something.
Yes.
I mean, you can always put something new on the paper. But to write something really good, I like not to be in a rush. I like not worrying like I got to have it tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Right.
You know?
No
I like
pressure.
it to be, you know, not too much pressure. On the other hand, I'll give you good pressure. If you're writing for Barbra Streisand,
Yes.
that's good pressure because you know you can't get away with anything less than really good.
She's a great musician.
She's a wonderful musician, and she has great intuitive ideas, just constantly. So you might take a little longer, but you're going to get it more right
product.
because of her. Yeah.
And you have done so much with her.
Yes.
You've directed, you've arranged,
Right.
you've written for her in The Way We Were,
Right.
and The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Right.
Tell me about what it was it like working with Barbra Streisand?
I love it because she is a New Yorker.
Yes.
She likes to get it done. She is truly a perfectionist in the best sense of the word.
Yeah.
Meaning, I always said to the musicians, I said, you know, if you think this is going to be an 8-hour day, leave now. I said, because I'm not going to stop her if she's on a roll. And if all of a sudden we're going into the 11th hour, hey, you know, some days you want to go 11 hours, and some days you go, forget it.
And this is your understanding.
Right. As a person that when you're writing for her, it's wonderful because you know that voice and you know what it can do, and
What
it can
an
do things
instrument.
that, you know. And then, of course, when you're working with her, she has wonderful instincts. Many times she can musically say it. Other times she can just say it in another language, in another way of saying it.
Yes.
But her instincts are, I would say, just about 99.9% right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing about Barbra Streisand that I learned, the most important thing is, don't promise her what you cannot
Deliver.
Meaning, a small issue, but important. Let's say she wants the arrangement Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And I know that the arrangement cannot be there until Friday at 9.
Yes.
Now, I have a choice. I can either say, yeah, we'll get it there Thursday, and then come Thursday, it's not there.
Disappoint her.
Or I might as well disappoint her right up front and say, Barbara,
Right.
there's not a prayer for Thursday. I'd love to, but I can't.
So much better.
But Friday, 9 a.m., trust me, you'll be
You'll
happy.
be there.
As long as you tell her the truth,
Yeah.
she's much more able to accept it and deal with it.
Because she has options.
Yes.
She knows where she stands.
But the minute you promise her something that you can't do and you're only doing it to try to keep her cool,
no.
big mistake. Big mistake.
And then she stopped wanting to perform on the stage.
Right.
And then she did that huge Millennium
Right.
presentation that you also directed.
Well, I was a musical director, yes.
What was that like? For
Well,
her to actually get
yeah.
back on the stage.
It was great. I'll tell you what was great about it for me. You knew that she was going to sing well.
Yes.
You knew the show was going to be good. You know the orchestra was going to be great. What was great for me was that we got her up there and she actually did the show.
Yeah.
And the more she did it, the more she had no problems.
Yeah.
But, I can understand her being crazy the first night if she had wanted to
Yes.
be. She stopped doing concerts because when she had been in Central Park many years ago,
Yes.
she had gotten a threat on her life.
Really?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons she stopped performing.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I know she's a very spiritual person.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she did some work preparing herself to be able to open again
Right.
on the stage.
Right.
And that makes me think, in Buddhism there's a word, a mantra called aha. And aha, or really means to reconnect, to connect to everybody.
Right.
And when you're inspired or you have in composition that aha moment, it is really connecting to everything, isn't it?
Interesting enough, my wife is basically a Buddhist. She's very much into Buddhism.
Aha.
In fact, we've met His Holiness the Dalai Lama
I
many
know
times.
this.
And I don't know where I lie exactly on the scale of this, but I will say to you that I have said that in writing,
yes,
there's something you feel just as close to God as you could possibly get. You just think He's just right there, you know?
Right.
When you're looking for something, when you're looking for the note, you're looking, and then all of a sudden it's there. You go, wait a minute, who pushed my hand to that? You know what I mean? There is, and I think that artists are very lucky because to a degree, without even asking for it, we're somehow in a spiritual mode to begin with.
Open to it.
Yes. Oh, very open to it.
Yes.
And I particularly enjoy reading about Buddhism only because I am Jewish, and it's not like either or.
No.
What's great about Buddhism, it's an adjunct. You just add it on. It's like a vest.
Do you know that 30% of all the converts to Buddhism are Jewish?
I would think that's true.
And there's an interesting book called The Jew and the Lotus.
Right, yes, I've read
Because
that.
they both believe so much in kindness.
Right.
Someone asked the Dalai Lama, what is your religion? And he said, kindness.
Very good.
My religion is kindness, compassion. So I will have to ask you,
yes,
how did you meet this Buddhist wife, Terry?
It's a complicated story. I'll try to make it.
No, just,
right.
I love to listen.
Okay.
I love stories.
I have a dear friend of mine. His name is Richard Kagan. He lives in California. I live in New York.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so the housekeeper that he has a sister who's a housekeeper.
Yes.
Who worked for this girl named Terry
Uh-huh.
in California. The two housekeepers get together and say, you know that girl out here, Terry, she never goes out, and everything like that. And you know Marvin in New York, he never goes out. We should
Get
somehow
them
get
together.
So the housekeeper gives
Matchmaking.
her number, the number of the girl, to my friend Richard, who calls me and tells me this whole thing. And I say, Richard, if this is the last time you try to push me together with someone, I'll call.
do it.
I'll call. He says, fine. So I call up the number, and I just say, hi, this is Marvin Hamilisch, blah, 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 blah. So finally, we spoke.
Yes.
And we spoke and spoke, and these conversations became very long.
Yes.
When I say long, I'm talking about
Hours.
4 hours, 5 hours. So after having about 2 or 3 months of these endless conversations, I realized I was falling in love with this person, and
Hadn't met her yet.
hadn't met her yet. And she was coming to New York, and I said I would meet her in New York, and she came to the Westbury Hotel. I went over to the Westbury. I knocked on the door, and as I did, I put a piece of paper underneath the door, which she grabbed, and it said on it, sight unseen, will you marry me? A Buddhist moment. An aha!
Exactly.
She said yes and opened the door.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
And
isn't it?
happily ever after.
16 years so far.
Isn't that something?
16 years. And she's...
Beautiful.
And she was very... No, but she was very much into different religions and stuff. And I
Yes.
learned a lot from that. I mean,
Yes.
that whole world of mine that I'm now into, or at least interested in, I was totally... You know, one of the terrible things, I will say, about being in the arts, there's one
Yes.
bad thing. I don't know if you found this with other people, but I found that if you're really doing your music, and you also have to worry about math and English and stuff at school,
Right.
that pretty well takes up most of the day. There's not much room to add on all these other things that
That's so
you should be
true.
interested in. You know,
Right.
I mean, you should say, well, you know, I went to the great art museums. Who's got the time? I mean, you're trying to keep your scholarship at Juilliard.
Yeah.
You got to be sure that Queens College. You're doing that. You know, you're doing all these things.
Yes.
And of course, I started to work when I was about 19. So my education in a lot of this stuff
Was limited.
was very limited.
Yes.
It's almost like, yeah, I know about music and stuff like that. Fine.
Yes.
But you ask me about something else, I go, I don't know. So in a way,
She
during my
opened you
marriage,
to that.
I am now slowly opening up to a whole. I'm now getting my liberal arts
I
training.
love that. That's
know?
wonderful.
Really, it's true.
Because I know, you know, when I was in high school, I dated a boy that went to Manhattan School of Music.
Good school. Good school.
Was a composition
Yes.
major. And I know that hardly anyone graduates in composition. I mean, it is so
Right.
tough. It's math, really.
No, it really, and it's just a lot of work.
It's a lot
You know,
of
it's a lot of
work.
And funny enough, when you finally get an hour, you're just dead tired. You're like,
Yes.
thank you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's been very rewarding, and it's been very interesting. And
one of your mentors was Leonard Bernstein.
right, yes. Well,
How did that happen?
He was at, when I was very young, there was a thing, I don't know if they probably still have it, the Weekly Reader.
Oh, yeah.
For kids.
They
which is one of-
absolutely still have it.
And when I was young as a prodigy, he took a picture with me. for the Weekly Reader, but we met a few times after, particularly after I'd done Chorus Line and stuff. And in my opinion, the true loss of him will be felt in the next generation.
Yes.
Because all of us still remember how great it was for him with the children and doing the children's concerts. I would give anything to see that back on television, because I think that's what our generation is missing. We're missing that link to tell kids that there's music out there that's really good, and you should know this.
So if you were on a desert island, what would you bring with you?
Well, I have the same 5 or 6 CDs for the last 30 years. I haven't changed my opinion. The first one that I go crazy is listening to West Side Story, the original album, you know, with Larry Kurt. And when you get to I Want to Be in America and you hear that orchestration go crazy, you just go, thank you, God, I'm glad I'm alive, you know? I mean, you know, if you're stuck on the Long Island Expressway and you're about to shoot yourself, which most people are, that's one of the good reasons to have that CD, because then you go,
relax.
it's okay, life goes on.
Life goes on.
Then there is Shostakovich Third.
Yes.
There is Nessa Dorma. I'm trying to think of there's Gypsy, of course. Da, 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 you know. And then I forgot the other two right now because I haven't driven for so long. But yeah, I think I want to make sure that there are worthwhile things to buy now to put into your CD.
Yes.
You know, and that to me is very important, to see what's coming now of the new generation, you know.
Because when you think about it, when music is used for learning, enhancing learning, processing information, staying calm, using more of your brain, having more capacity, and then we think of this jolting kind of music, this technological sounding music that kids are really buying into, what are we doing to their nervous system? What are we doing to the person that we're creating with giving them only that kind?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I'm sure that I thought of my folks as old fogies.
Yeah.
And now I'm sure everyone thinks of me as an old fogey, because I went the other night to an event and they had a rock group there, and they thought they were doing me a favor. They put me in the first row.
Your ears.
They opened up with something. I swear, I said to myself, I'm going right to the hospital. I'm going right to an audiologist. Hello. I mean, I don't get it, you know. I mean, because to me, some of the most beautiful music in the world is played real soft. And you just sit there and go, you know, there's a place for us at the end of West Side Story. I mean, I don't think it gets louder than piano or something, and yet it just goes right to your heart. I think that's the part of the music that I miss. I can understand it saying things. I can understand it being rebellious, but I want to feel it somehow. I want to feel an emotional
resonate. To have it resonate
to me, so I can take it from there and go, I can take that into my life and it can mean this. You know, that's what I'm still looking for.
Your other mentor, Jules Stein, what did he offer you?
Julie Stein. Let me tell you, Julie Stein was a very small, big man, and he had more energy than I have, and I'm considered a AAA energy person. What Julie Stein showed me was how you do it, how you don't hold on to anything. Star says, I don't like this song, you write another one. You don't just go...
Don't get attached.
You don't get attached, and you don't get crazed because someone doesn't like something. You don't take it personally. But Julie Stein was a wondrous guy, a great character, and he was also one of the few composers who could really play the piano well.
That's
interesting. We just lost Cy Coleman, who was the of
Wonderful.
composers. There's nobody who plays it better than Cy Coleman. No. Cy Coleman would just, believe me, he could just put it away. But Julie was one of those people who could really do it. You know, it was a wonderful man.
If I ask you a question you're totally not prepared for, though you weren't for anything anyway, it would be, what was the one defining moment of your life?
Very easy thing. When I was the rehearsal pianist on Funny Girl, which was starring Barbra Streisand, I was about 24, 25 years old, and she had her own pianist. So basically I hardly ever played for her. I would play if there were a chorus people and her. Then all of a sudden it goes to my bailwax. Okay. Her pianist gets a call on a Friday night to play a party, and he says, I'm not playing a party, but I'll give you Marvin Hamilisch, talk to him.
Oh, you're kidding.
I now get a phone call from a woman. She says she needs a piano player. I say, I don't play parties. I'm, work with Barbra Streisand. I said, but if you tell me who the party's for, perhaps I can send you someone. She said it was for the Hollywood producer Sam Spiegel, who had just done On the Waterfront and Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, my.
And I said, I'll be over in 10 minutes. Right. And I went over, played the party, knew in my head that this could be my moment. I mean, it's not every day you get a chance to play for Sam Spiegel, a man who makes motion pictures.
Amazing.
The end of the thing, he says to me he's looking for a new composer for a film. The next thing you know, 8 months later, I'm in Hollywood.
Well, you are a genius,
Thank you.
and clearly you had this destiny, not just really a prodigy, but really this destiny to lead us into this next century with such great music.
You know, not only is it fun for me because I love audiences, but I learn a lot from these orchestras, you know?
Yeah.
I was not a person who started out trying to be a conductor, so there's a lot to learn. And some things you learn just because you do,
Yes.
and other things you learn from the players,
Yeah.
who are very helpful to you and say, I think you should do it this way, I think you should do it that way. What I'm very proud of is that the Pops are doing very well, and I'm very excited about the season, so it's good.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so thrilled that you gave us this day.
My pleasure.
And it's been wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marvin. Your music brings so many people so much pleasure. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Gail Gross.
We are PBS.